everyone. It should be everyone's favorite day today if you're into handhelds. Today we've got the Asus ROG Ally in for review. I did purchase this myself. I'm not going to review it today, obviously, because it's the first day it came out, so anybody that's putting out a review today that hasn't had the device for over the past month is a false review in my opinion, because that's not enough time to spend with the device to really get a good idea on how it's going to handle. So I'd say expect a review from me in about a month or so if you're into that. But today is just going to be a quick unboxing and overview, as well as a little bit of kind of setup optimization. I'm going to show you how to debloat some of the Windows 11 stuff. Alright, then getting into the box here, we've got the two security stickers to remove the box there. Nice little kind of monogram box. And here's our little included little eggshell stand that you've probably seen in those videos of everyone having the Ally. So getting into it, obviously we have the console. Yeah, it's plastic wrapped and everything, so that's nice. I'm gonna need to get a screen protector for this one. I haven't gotten one yet, unfortunately. But yeah, so just unwrapping the console there. There we go. Yeah, in hand, it's definitely, it's an interesting feeling. That is, yeah, that is kind of interesting. So you can see that there's like a hard kind of angular line here going into the controller. Yeah, I don't know. Some people were saying it was more comfortable than the Steam Deck. I don't know if I'm inclined to believe that. Maybe when you're kind of sitting like this a little bit. I don't know. I don't know. It's not as comfortable as the Steam Deck in my opinion. It works, but then you got the buttons that stick out quite a bit as well. You can kind of see how far they stick out there. And there's actually a little gap underneath it there, so you could potentially get it caught on something and rip it off maybe. So that's not really a good design decision in my opinion, but hopefully you're not roughhousing with the device, right? But other than that, it's a very premium feeling device. The plastics are nice feeling. The D-pad, I don't know. I'm not a big D-pad user, so other than like the quick select in games and whatever, but I know this style of D-pad isn't the greatest for some fighting games, but I'm not the expert on that. I would imagine that this would be a little bit better because you can kind of roll it around a bit easier. But again, I'm no expert on fighting games by any means. The triggers do feel a little bit more resistant than the Steam Deck. The bumpers are rather clicky. Yeah, beyond that, no, though the buttons feel nice. Kind of feels the face buttons feel a little bit more mushy compared to an Xbox controller. So we have the Xbox Anniversary Edition controller here, so it feels like you do need to put on a little bit more force to push them in. Or a little less force, sorry, more force on the Xbox controller, less force on the ROG Ally. So, I don't know, they feel okay. They're not the greatest though. I would rather them be more of like the clicky, firmer press of the Xbox controller. And then getting into the box of accessories here, we'll tape open the rest of the box here. I assume there's not going to be too much except for a charger. Yep. So it's a 65 watt charger, I believe. I'll just double check that actually. I could have sworn it was 65 watt, but it actually might be 45. Yeah, 65 watt. My apologies. Okay, and then yeah, so that's kind of it. There's a little box here. I don't really know what's in here. Okay. Some promotion materials. Congratulations, register, do all that good stuff. And that's it. So yeah, pretty bog standard box. And we can see the little stand that it comes with. So honestly, it's nothing to write home about. It's just a little eggshell carton. That's all it really is. But it's a nice little spot to be able to just put your ROG Ally, I guess, when you're not using it. So, I mean, it's better than nothing. It's a nice little thoughtful touch. It's nice branded. Yeah, no, it's a nice thoughtful touch. Then just getting into the quick overlay of the buttons and everything. So obviously we have the two joysticks. We have our little start and select. We have our armory crate button, and then I presume... Actually, I'm not too sure what this button is, but yeah, probably just a macro button. Two stereo speakers, which are apparently pretty good sounding, so we'll test that as well. We have the right bumper, left bumper, and then going into, we have the volume up, volume down, USB-C input, the XG mobile input as well. It's a part of the USB-C. We have our SD card reader, 3.5mm headphone jack, power button, and then LED lights for, there's a little battery, so I assume we're charging, and then maybe a trouble code light or something. I'm not sure what that is. Moving alongside the bottom, we got nothing, just the serial numbers and stuff, and moving along the sides, we just have the nice little reflective ROG Ally stuff. Moving on to the back, we have our two back buttons, and that's it. Got our visible screws. Apparently it's fairly easy to take apart as well, so shouldn't be any issue for you. Alright, and powering the device on for the first time here, so we'll see what the setup process is like on it. If it'll power on. Okay. I guess we're gonna need some power to plug this into. Alright, there we go. So we can see with the charging light when you plug in the battery, now we've got power. Let's see if we can turn this bad boy on now. There we go. Beautiful. So you may or may not need to plug it into power the first time you power it on. Just something to keep in mind. It is always a good idea to keep your devices plugged in the first time you're setting them up, though, just to get through that first initial setup process. And honestly, just from the quick little, like, looking at the ROG Republic of Gamers text here, it's very sharp and nice, clear display. Can't wait to get into the actual display. Alright, so I've gotten everything kind of set up. So if you've ever set up a Windows machine before, it's honestly the same. It was a little disappointing to see there wasn't any sort of like kind of custom setup. Like once you got into the Armory Crate SE, it did kind of walk you through things. But honestly, unless I missed it, there was really no kind of tutorial on like, hey, okay, this is how you can control desktop mode, this is how you do this. So it actually threw me for a bit of a loop there the first time. So right bumper is your left mouse click and right trigger is your right mouse click. Whereas I'm used to obviously being left mouse click, right mouse click, right? So that took me all of 2 seconds to kind of figure out. But it's one of those things that could have been avoided if they just straight up said, okay, here's a little tutorial, do you want to do it or no? And then kind of go from there, right? So beyond that, the feeling in the hand though, and just kind of getting used to it, the plastic is nice. It's like a nice kind of textured plastic compared to the Steam Deck. And you can see along the backside here, it is kind of textured differently. So it's kind of got like a diamond little cut pattern type thing for just more gripability. And then alongside the back of the device, it is a smooth plastic. But enough of like just how it is. I'm sure you guys have probably already seen all those videos and whatever. So we'll just get straight into Tears of the Kingdom here and see how she starts running on it. Now, I did transfer over my Mount Doom save and stuff that I've been using on the Steam Deck for all the benchmarks there. One thing I will say is the speakers are quite loud. They're only at 50% there. I've not even dared to put them up to 100%, so they sound quite nice. Very good job on the speakers. And then getting into performance, if you want to bring up your little quick access menu, click that button there, brings up all this. So we can see here, I haven't installed Afterburner or got my own custom FPS software or anything like that running on it, so we'll just use their built-in one. It should be, oh there we go, real-time monitor. So there we go. Yeah, unfortunately it's a little tough to see the FPS there, but we'll zoom it in. Okay, so first things first, just kind of running around. Yeah, not looking so great. We're just getting 20 FPS here. Obviously we're building shaders. So I'm gonna do the Mount Doom run here and we'll just kind of do it live. Okay, big slowdown there. So we can see here that the GPU is actually locked to 800 megahertz, which is interesting. And we are in the 15 watt mode. Okay, we're getting up to 22 FPS. And I am running the FPS++ mod, latest 1.1.1 update. I haven't switched over to the 1.1.2 update. I haven't really seen a need for it yet. I know you kind of lose out on some duping cheats or whatever if you're into that sort of stuff. Okay, I did not want to do that. So, if I can remember how to get to my menu, there we go. We are going to load back. Alright, so after having a little bit of a panic attack of wondering why performance was so dog slow, setting that you might want to have to change, that I forgot to change, sorry, was the GPU accuracy level. So it was set to high, so I backed that down to normal, and then it was just an instant FPS increase. So we'll get back into full screen here, and we'll go through the Mount Doom run here as I just kind of talk about the ROG Ally. We'll let the thing settle in there. So, as you can see here, like what I'm doing right now, because I'm running it as a desktop app and it's not picking it up as a game, it thinks it's a desktop application. So when you're in the desktop mode, you're either in gamepad mode, desktop mode, or you can put it in auto. So presumably auto will auto detect, okay, this is a game application or 3D application, we'll switch it over to controller mode. And then, okay, no, you're in a desktop environment or desktop application, no, we'll switch you over to desktop mode. So when you're running an emulator, it doesn't see it as a 3D application, I assume, and whatever. I'm sure there's probably a way you can add or allow certain things and make it operate as that, but it's just one of those things where, okay, on first blush, it's just a little bit clunky to kind of have to keep going, okay, switch out of here and then scroll up here and then, okay, go back to gamepad mode and then click, okay, now we can play, right? And then, oh, if I need to switch back to desktop mode, I need to do something. If auto mode worked all the time 100%, that would be great, but it won't, and probably likely never will. It'll get better over time, I'm sure, detecting applications and whatever, but I'm sure it'll never be 100% perfect. However, that being said, having run Steam Deck with the Windows on it before, this is a much more elegant solution to controlling everything. So they did kind of nail like just the quick access menus and stuff with the Windows, in my opinion. Okay, so now everything's kind of settled in. We're just in the 15 watt mode. Oh, we should be. Performance, turbo, manual, performance, 15 watt, okay. And apparently it just doesn't want to recognize that. That's interesting. Because it was running at a straight 15 watt before. What if I kick it down to silent and see what it does now? Okay, so that brings it down. Interesting. Okay, we'll bring it back up to performance. Okay, so I guess it just wants to draw that much when you're running performance. Okay. And that is the APU, so it's taking the CPU and the GPU into consideration there. Obviously, we're using more CPU power right now compared to the GPU, running at 3.3 megahertz there, roughly. Again, I don't have my afterburner and all that Rivian tuner installed, so this isn't meant to be a quick or like an in-depth review performance of Tears of the Kingdom, but obviously you can see right now just playing it, even in the 15 watt mode, save for the little shader cache stutters, yeah, we're getting a pretty solid 30 FPS most of the time, I'd say. We'll bring it actually here. We'll bring it back, and we'll bring it back to a lightning storm, and we'll get a really good one going. Alright, back to my fresh save here, and we're just gonna run. So with the heavy weather effects, yes, it's dropping down to 20s, mid-20s it looks like there, 27, 23. Okay, so we'll just keep going. Mind you, it is still compiling all these shaders because this is my first full run of doing this. I haven't done this before. So again, as with the Steam Deck, the more and more that you play, the better and better the performance will get as you cache the shaders. Build the shaders over time, see like even now, like okay, now I'm back up to 30 FPS there. And it's pretty solid, even in the 15 watt mode. If you wanted to dock this and put it up to the 35 watt mode, you'd be laughing. And we'll do a quick little turbo run too, but I'm not going to do the dock mode. We'll save that for a separate video. Alright, and then switching over to the handheld turbo mode, that's the 25 watt mode. You can kick it up to 30 watts in your manual profile, and then when you're plugged in you can kick it up to 35. It does have a boost mode up to 53 watts I believe, but it will only hit that very, very briefly. So we can see here that our APU is pushing about 30 watts now for CPU and GPU combined. We can see that we're pushing higher clocks on the CPU, whereas we were running about 3.3 before. We're now hitting like 3.8, 3.9. So yeah, and now we're getting mid to high 20s in this section. Mind you, we are cache shaders now, like not all of them, but a good chunk were cached. So whether the performance is going to be that much better running it in 30 or 35 watt docked mode, I'll have to do a full-on comparison video for that one. Then that's just way out of the scope of this video. This is just a quick initial impressions on the Ally itself. But I know people are going to want to see how well it's running. Alright, and just to wrap up this kind of quick unboxing, quick little overview, yeah, so the ROG Ally, it's obviously more powerful, quite a bit more powerful than the Steam Deck, I would say. Again, we'll get into actual head-to-head performance benchmarks, and in those benchmarks, I'm going to be running the Steam Deck at stock clocks, and then I'm going to be running it with a slight overclock, and then I'm going to be running it at an 18 watt TDP overclock as well, and a bit of an undervolt as well. So we're going to try and give the Steam Deck the best possible chance that I can get, because I can only push mine to about 18 watts before it starts to overheat. As best of a chance I can get as compared to the ROG Ally. So the ROG Ally, it can obviously go up to the 35 watt mode when it's plugged in, up to 30 watts when it's not. You'll obviously be draining your battery deathly quick then. You can see now even in the 120 hertz mode and in 25 watt mode, not even the 30 watt mode, we're drawing 42 watt hours, and yeah, our battery is just draining. So yeah, quick things to note, things that some people will like is probably this D-pad. Honestly, whether it's just the placement thing or I don't know, like I've always liked these style of D-pads better. I don't know why. I know some people will say no, like the cross D-pad is the only way you can go. It does feel a little bit more kind of mushy compared to the Steam Deck. It does have like a little bit of a click, but the Steam Deck does have that more pronounced click on it. Beyond that, the sticks feel about like they have the same kind of rotation. They're full-size sticks. The buttons are a lot more stiff on the Steam Deck, the face buttons. I would liken those to an Xbox controller. Again, these face buttons are a lot more mushy, I would say. The triggers feel to be a little bit more tense than the Steam Deck triggers. Travel feels about the same though. Bumpers, yep, they're okay. Pretty much like the Xbox bumpers, maybe a little bit more kind of plasticky. They are textured as well with like that diamond cut pattern. Just to quickly note, as I was just playing here and kind of tooling around, I did notice some more kind of heat buildup on the left hand side of the device, and that was just my hand kind of heating up a little bit more on the fingers as opposed to my right hand side. If I had a thermal camera, maybe it would confirm that, but I can feel definitely down on the bottom side here there is a little bit more heat compared to this side. So that's one thing to note. I never really did have a problem with the Steam Deck being hot in the hands, but the Steam Deck does have quite a bit more controller grip girth, I would say, to it compared to the Ally. Like the Ally is obviously smaller, it's more kind of compact, it's lighter. Yeah. So here's the Ally compared to the Steam Deck. We'll bring it in here. Yeah, there you go. Again, this is just a quick unboxing and overview. It's not obviously a full review. I've only just had it less than a day. I got it this morning. So again, the quick things to note, I would say, yeah, if you don't have a handheld and you're in the market for one, definitely grab the ROG Ally. If you're wanting best performance and best kind of whatever, go for it. Although the Steam Deck in its cheaper option, in the 64GB model, with the expectation that you're going to either have a sizable SD card or upgrade the internal SSD to something bigger for cheaper than what they would charge you. The Steam Deck still does have its purpose because it is significantly cheaper in the base model. For this is $799 here in Canada. I believe this is $699 or six. I don't even know, $750 maybe. I think it's $50 less. Anyway, I wouldn't spend the full price amount on the Steam Deck and the top of the line model. That's just a waste of money in my opinion. Whatever. I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, so again, if you're in the market for a handheld and you're looking to spend a bit more money to get kind of the best performance that you can get, the ROG Ally is going to be the way to go. There are the handhelds coming out that are going to be running the new AMD chipset platform as well. So it's not going to be the only option, but honestly, the Ally is probably going to be the most subsidized option, I would say, because it is targeting that lower price point, as opposed to the more niche like the AYN or companies like that, Neo. They're operating on a much smaller scale than Asus, obviously. So they can't eat a lot of those costs the way Asus could. So obviously I'm sure there is some sort of subsidized, what they might be losing money on these things or just barely breaking even at the price that they're selling them at, because the performance that you're getting compared to the Steam Deck and even its custom APU and everything, it just doesn't compete to it performance-wise. The screen is honestly a big step up. I haven't had a chance to really test it in the dark, like deep blacks yet, but honestly, it just seems a lot more vibrant. This is just running in the 1080p 120Hz mode right now. When I kind of play more games, I'll let you guys know as I'm playing the games, and once I do like a full update or review, I'll do like a full on-screen comparison and get into like how it actually looks in the dark scenes, because that's the problem with the Steam Deck, is the dark scenes. The contrast is not that good on it, so it looks more gray than black at times, and then with the screen, the light bleed from the sides, like it's just not a very good experience when it's a low light, like dark scene. But yeah, I'm probably just rambling at this point, so I'll just kind of cut it off here. Let me know in the comments what games you want me to test, what you want me to compare. So obviously I'm going to be doing Tears of the Kingdom. I'll likely be doing that first. So I'm going to go into a whole optimization thing for it. I will kind of do a quick little like Debloat tutorial here too. So there is a program that I'll leave here linked, and you can follow that too. But essentially you can just install that, and you can remove things like OneDrive and Teams and all that bloatware, because yes, that stuff does come installed on this. It's still a Windows device. I believe it's against the law or the regulations between the deal between Microsoft and Asus for them to actually go in here and modify anything outside of like their own software. I don't think they can go in and say, yeah, no, we don't need OneDrive, we don't need Teams, get that out of here. I don't think they're allowed to do that as a Windows certified manufacturer. I might be wrong, but I believe that's the case. But regardless, so you can install a program to debloat your Windows. So that program is called, it used to be This Is Win 11, but they shut down. So now this one is called Bloaty Nosy app. So Bloaty Nosy app, it's honestly just a super simple thing. I'll punch in here on the camera. So you can see here's all the pre-installed bloatware. So you can scan your thing and say like, okay, we've got bloatware, we've got whatever, and then it'll just go and remove all that stuff. Now, you're not going to want to remove everything. You're going to want to keep all the gaming features, because you'll need that for the Xbox Game Pass stuff. I would recommend not touching the desktop, but anything else I would go for. Just kind of open it through and look through it all and make sure it's something you don't need, like printer service or fax service, so you can disable all that stuff as well. Now, down here at the actual thing that's called bloatware, I didn't touch that at all because I assumed that would remove the Asus Armory Crate SE and all that stuff as well, which you don't want to do, because then you would just be running a straight Windows machine with none of the optimizations that Asus has done for the device. So I'll leave that linked in here. If you have any questions at all, please leave a comment and I'll get back to you. I can make a more dedicated video about it, but it's honestly super dead simple. Just go through, open the little tabs here, and just make sure you're not unchecking any or checking off anything that sounds important. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you're not comfortable doing it, don't do it at all then. At the very least, you can remove OneDrive and Teams and then just leave everything else. That's my bare minimum recommendation. Because honestly, OneDrive is a bit of a pain in the ass on Windows, especially when you start filling up the storage, and then it just starts notifying you like crazy. And then finally, there's one other tweak that I want to mention, and it's disabling Hibernation. So when you run Steam Deck with Windows, the way that Hibernation works, when you want to just power off the device, put it to sleep, and you want your games to save in that state, like the Steam Deck and SteamOS, Hibernation can sometimes screw that up. So there is a way to remove Hibernation, but I'm just going to see now what happens because I just closed Tears of the Kingdom, or I just put it to sleep, and we're going to see what happens. Okay, so we've got sound, we've got control. It looks like it's running at full proper speed that it would be running at. So there you go. It looks like, for the most part, obviously an online game, you would get booted out of the server or something like that. But for a single player offline game, it looks like, yeah, we can just go ahead and put it to sleep, no problem. So that's a plus. Good job. I couldn't really think of a nice way to end this video. I didn't really have a point to end it on or whatever. It was just supposed to be an initial unboxing, initial thoughts, and then a quick little demonstration of Tears of the Kingdom. But there's things that I like. There's the speakers. Speakers sound great. The fan is a hell of a lot quieter than the Steam Deck. The only time that's annoying is when you purposely max it out to 100%, but even then, like, it's about as loud as the Steam Deck, I would say, but it definitely doesn't have that whining kind of pitch to it. But yeah, like when it's in its own fan profile, beautiful, beautiful. You barely hear it. And especially over the speakers, you probably won't hear it. Now, things I don't like, the software. The software is going to be buggy, and I'll show you right here. So in Armory Crate, when you open it up, you're supposed to hit the button here, and you're supposed to switch over to D-pad, and you're supposed to be able to control right bumper to go through top menus, and then arrows to pick your game. So it's in desktop mode right now, so we'll switch it back over to auto, and still nothing. Switch it back over to gamepad mode, should theoretically work, and nothing. We will force close it because it doesn't like to be closed, and when you close it here, and keep in mind I already did this once, and we'll open it again, fresh load, and still nothing. So this is probably going to warrant a full system restart. And that's where I just like to end it off at, is yes, the ROG Ally is a very good device. It's very powerful, the screen is very nice, you get the 120 Hz, even though you're going to be draining your battery. I see this as like what I ideally would see a Nintendo Switch Pro as. Handheld, you get like the low 15 watt TDP, whatever, and you play your games on the go. And then when you put it into a docked mode, you pump it up to that 30-35 watt mode if you put the XG mobile GPU, if you don't have a dedicated desktop. That's where I think this is kind of like the Nintendo Switch Pro that I want to see, and I'm sure a lot of people want to see, in the sense that the Nintendo Switch dock would have a GPU or something to power it to produce better frames and whatever, right? That's just a pipe dream, but honestly, this is the best thing we got, and with the emulation performance in the Switch, but just early on there, it seems fairly good. So this might be the Nintendo Switch Pro that we've been waiting for.